My name's Josh. I'm a co-host on the Imperfects, the son of Sri Lankan and English immigrants, and I grew up on and am now raising my children on Wurundjeri country. I'd like to recognise the traditional peoples of this continent whose land was stolen nearly 250 years ago. In particular, we at the Imperfects would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which this podcast was recorded, and we extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. I'm inspired by the strength and endurance of the world's oldest living culture, and we at the Imperfects pay homage to the traditions of story when we share stories on our podcast.
Hi everyone, just a quick heads up before we jump into today's podcast episode with the wonderful Darcy Vescio. On a few occasions I used the wrong pronouns for Darcy. In the editing process we had a choice as to whether or not we leave those mistakes in there. We've decided to leave those mistakes in there, and the reason for that very simply is that we felt as though it kind of led us to a really great conversation with Darcy on this very point. And it's a conversation that we felt was quite important to have. So we really hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode with Darcy Vescio, and I apologise for getting the pronouns wrong on those few occasions.
The Imperfects invites you into a very safe place. A place where we share without judgment and drink heaps and heaps of vulnerability. Grab yourself a cup. This is the Vulnerabilitea House.
God, I really stretched that out, don't I?
It is long, isn't it?
Yeah. It's long.
It's a long intro.
It's unnecessarily long. Yeah. But, you know, you got to have an intro. You got to have an intro.
You do, especially when we have a guest like we do today.
Yeah, of course.
We have football. Well, I was going to say football, but also just human being royalty with us.
Human being, isn't that the Queen?
Oh, no, that's, yes.
We
haven't got the Queen.
And she's a pretty good footballer.
God, if we had...
Mark of the year, the Queen.
I mean, Darcy, we're stoked to have you, but if we had the Queen, imagine if Liz was sitting here. Imagine that.
And you're led with football.
Oh, yeah, true. Football royalty, Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to say human being royalty, but we have a great person in today and a wonderful footballer. So we are so lucky to be joined by Darcy Vescio today, which is a miracle that she's here because it was left to me from an admin point of view to arrange this.
Yeah.
And I can't believe this has happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
A few hiccups along the way, but we're here.
Please say more, Darcy. We love hearing Hugh Van Cuylenberg hiccups.
No, it was my fault as well. I think we were just a lot of delays between replies and then last minute pull out. I got COVID and then Hugh thought I still had COVID. So I was like, oh, we're still on for tomorrow. This was a while back.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, but you've got COVID. And I was like, I did have COVID, but now I'm out. But
Hugh's still trying to come to terms with the fact that people actually do get over COVID.
yeah.
If most people do get over COVID. So it's great you got over COVID.
Thank you.
Great.
Well,
thanks for being here.
Well, I'm a little bit nervous for a couple of reasons. I'm a huge fan of Darcy, so that's one of the reasons I'm a little bit nervous, but then I've also got to read her bio, and that makes me nervous reading
Oh, yes.
the bio. So
You have to read it out loud.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think people who listen to this show know that I'm not the best at reading out loud to people. Can read, competent reader, just not out loud to people. So
Yeah, well, looking forward to your attempt now.
I
No pressure.
got two things I want to read. First of all,
Yeah.
I have Darcy's bio, but then I sent a message to someone who you know very well, Darcy, and asked for her take on you, and she sent me a message to describe you. So I want to read that out to you as well because I think it's really nice. So
Okay.
Oh, my God, the Queen.
Lizzie.
Liz has got a few things to say. She enjoyed the mark of the year.
Okay, here we go. Actually, I feel good about this, I have to say. Darcy Vescio is an Australian rules footballer playing for the Carlton Football Club in the AFL women's competition. At the conclusion... Oh, damn it. Sorry. Not at the conclusion. I skipped a paragraph.
Oh, background.
Wow.
Oh, God.
This is better than I was expecting.
Darcy was signed as a marquee player by Carlton in July 2016, ahead of the league's inaugural 2017 season. They made their debut in round 1 2017 in the club and the league's inaugural match at Icon Park against Collingwood. They kicked a game-high 4 goals in the match, which was more than Collingwood's overall team score. Yes. I probably need to add that bit, but it's a bit of a sledge to Collingwood there. At the conclusion of the 2017 season, Vescio was the AFLW leading goal kicker, was nominated by their teammates for the AFLW Players' Most Valuable Player Award, and was listed in the 2017 All-Australian team. Their mark in front of the goal in round 5 against Western Bulldogs was voted by the fans as the mark of the year. And we just watched that just then, and it was a bloody great mark.
Yeah, one-hander. Love a one-hander.
Darcy broke the record. Darcy broke the record for the most AFLW career goals in round 8, 2021, when they booted 5 goals against the Gold Coast to reach 40 career goals. So that's the how am I going so far?
Yeah, great. I mean, usually you don't need to just ask for validation during the introduction but you are doing really well, Hugh.
Thanks, guys.
Like, it's
Thank
great.
You so much. It reminds me in primary school when you're learning to read and the teacher will just pick people out at random to read a paragraph. That's where my fear comes from, I think.
It's a horrible fear. Do you have any sort of fears like that, Darcy?
I don't know, actually. To be
throw you on
honest.
the spot
Maybe
there,
I'll
sorry.
get into it today.
Isn't that part of the podcast?
Well, that could be one of the questions.
Oh, yeah, imagine if that was the top card. Do you have any fears like that, Darcy? That'd be a very specific question.
So I messaged Daisy Pearce, and Daisy Pearce is well known as one of the all-time legends of AFLW. Incredible person, incredible footballer. Someone I'm guessing that being a little bit younger, someone you probably look up to a little bit. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot there and going,
no,
not really.
Certainly. Yeah, I certainly look up to Daisy.
So here's Daisy.
It'd be a strange no from Darcy. Nah, don't look up to her.
Yeah.
She's okay.
Well, here's what she says about you.
Yeah, true.
So here, I just, a quick message to Daisy. I said, I'm going to introduce Darcy. Any thoughts? And she said, Darcy is one of the kindest, funniest, most thoughtful and talented people I know. 50% of their talents are amazing, wide-ranging things like football, tennis. Was ball kid of the year at the Australian Open. Every sporting kid's dream.
Wow.
Is that true?
That's true.
Oh, wow. That's where the one-handed ball skills come from.
Exactly. Overall sporting coordination, graphic design, and excellent social awareness. Thankfully, the other 50% are very niche. You might even say completely useless, like being able to build a lifelike, gigantic Big M Carlton costume.
Okay.
Interesting. Hopefully that comes up as in the tea house.
Yeah. In
what costume have you? Yeah. I say thankfully because if they were all useful talents, us normal people would feel completely inadequate. I love them as a footballer because they're really instinctive. They have this unique movement to signature, and so often you think they've mistimed a mark or out of the contest, but it's all part of the plan, and they win their ball from positions that they really shouldn't. So there you go. Pretty nice summary of you.
That's really kind. I'm a good friend. Oh, Daisy and I are good friends, but I look up to her immensely, so thanks, Daisy.
That's cool. It's very
Too
cool.
kind.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, unless we want to talk about anything, unless you've got any more reading you want to do.
No, I think that's I'll close my laptop to really symbolise the fact I don't have to read again so I can relax.
So Darcy, you've heard the Vulnerabilitea House before.
I have.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for
problem.
being here. The bluey cards are in front of you, as you can see. Now the way you know, but the way it works, you pick the top 3 cards. They've been shuffled, lay them out, read them out, and then if any of those questions speak to you in any way, hopefully you can shed some vulnerability with us.
All right. I'll give it a go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your biggest failure and was it good for you?
You're looking at me there like, oh, you could answer this one.
You're a failure.
God, that's not going to haunt you. Darcy Vescio looking you dead in the eye. You're a failure, Hugh.
No. What has it taken you too long to realise? And what's the bravest thing you've done?
Big questions.
Yeah, they are big questions. You usually don't put big questions in this deck.
Yeah, well, they pop up every now and again. But yeah, this is the trifecta of big questions.
It's the luck or unluck of the draw, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously only if you feel comfy.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a very short podcast if you don't want to. But
Yeah.
but in saying that, there's no pressure for anyone to ever
Yeah.
Be vulnerable.
while I have to answer this question,
You can pick another card.
I mean, and courage for you, it could be, every weekend when you walk out and play. I mean, for someone who played a little bit of football,
Here we go.
I was
A few war stories from Van Carlenberg. I've played a bit of footy in my time.
Before you answer these questions, let me tell you my football.
I found it terrifying playing football. I would
yeah.
I was genuinely scared, and that'll surprise no one that played with me. But that could be the most courageous thing you do. I don't know.
No, I'd like to hear more about your career later if we've got time.
So would I, Darcy. So would I. I used to...
Full of contested
speaking
possessions.
Speaking about people who've played footy, I played a bit in my time as well. I used to call myself a goal sneak. Like that's how I referred to myself, because I was too terrified to go into the packs. So I sort of called myself a goal sneak. So I would sit on the kind of the outside of the packs, hoping that the ball would come out just straight into my hands and I could like snap it over. Because if you snap for a goal, it's more forgivable if you miss, as opposed to like being a spearhead full forward. From a goal sneak, and it's like, well, if I can sneak a goal, then should be all very happy.
How many did you sneak?
Not many, if any, a scribe once said.
Always good
to reference
scribe
the great New Zealand rapper Scribe. Not many, if any.
Oh, dear.
Sorry, Darcy.
But you're a goal kicker.
No, that
Darcy.
sounds...
Prolific goal kicker.
Prolific.
No, I try. I try to be a goal sneak.
Yeah. What's the best goal you've snuck?
I don't know, actually.
Have you ever like snuck any from the boundary and there's like dribble them in? Those
no, I would love to do that, but I haven't really had... I don't think there's been a moment where I've been on the boundary and it's been open for a dribble kick.
Well, what you got to do is just wait out there and hope the ball
be scared like
rolls
Ryan and I.
Yeah. That would be the dream, to kick a goal like that.
Because if I'm doing any goal kicking practice, it's always dribble kicks or snaps from the boundary line.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was my specialty.
You don't see too many people turn up to the park with a footy and have shots from 10 metres out directly in front, do you?
Don't.
Yeah, it's true.
Just going to work on the basics today.
Yeah.
None of the high percentage shots.
Yeah.
Practiced.
Darcy, we've absolutely taken over your tea house. Sorry.
No problem. I think I'll do what's the bravest thing you've done? And I guess it sort of feels kind of relevant because, at the end of last year, I shared publicly that I'm non-binary and that, I don't know, I wouldn't usually self-describe as brave. It's sort of not really something that would spring to mind. But, I felt like it was something that did feel a little bit daunting, something that I felt like I really wanted to do, but something that felt like it did have some risk attached.
What was the risk you were worried about?
Well, I suppose for me, like, I feel like I'm someone that people know quite well, and there definitely is that sense of familiarity, especially publicly as well. Like, and I suppose with something like this, like, I guess there was a fear that maybe people would see me differently, or like they just, and there was that not knowing how people would react as well, both publicly and privately. Mm-hmm. But like I'm really glad that I did it, and I feel really fortunate to have had like such a great response, and also I got to do it on my own terms as well, which meant that I could sort of build a support network around me before sharing things more widely. So I felt like I did have a really good support base.
So I'm really interested to hear how you actually decided to share it in the end. But just to go back a bit, is this something you'd been aware of for a while and had sort of been trying to reconcile in your own mind, or was it something you'd sort of come to later on?
It's probably not something that I've really thought about for a long time, or it was never something that troubled me, or like I never really felt like there was tension or anything with my own gender identity. Like sexuality was something that I more probably delved into and thought about, but it wasn't until maybe like the past year or so that I really started to consider that side of myself and delve a bit deeper. That the more I thought about it, the more I was like, if like, I guess being non-binary is an option, that definitely sits a lot more comfortably for me than identifying as a woman. And it's sort of it's a strange thing because it really changes nothing, but it changes it does change things. So it's a weird sort of one.
And was there something that you read or someone you saw or someone that inspired you or introduced you to the idea for the first time of non-binary and making that an option for you?
I wouldn't say there's sort of one person. I feel like I have over the years been consuming more, I guess, a more diverse range of podcasts or reading. I don't really read. I listen to audiobooks. I'll listen to yours, Hugh.
Oh, both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Actually.
Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, I think just being more aware, even having people like Sam Smith come out and just seeing more people in the world be non-binary and understanding that is a completely fine thing to be. And even actually I listened to Dr. Eve Reese, their book as well. And I loved that. And I know you've had them on the podcast. But they were really incredible to listen to as well. But it wasn't particularly a moment or anything. I think I told my partner Emily in June and she's been wonderful. I'm so lucky to have such a supportive partner. And for her it was it's completely fine. That's the thing. I think for some people I told, it was kind of that seems about right. It sort of
really?
was.
Yeah.
Wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, I don't think it would be particularly surprising for the people closest to me. But then, I remember I went on Dill and Friends. I was speaking to Dill and in his podcast I don't know what point I was making, but I was sort of self-describing myself and I used the term woman, and this would have been in maybe October or so. And that was probably the first time that it just didn't really, I was kind of oh, why did I even say that? I don't even, that doesn't feel like it's a natural thing for me to say anymore. And that was probably the first time that I was oh, I think I would be in a good position to talk more publicly and share a little bit, especially with the people around me, not just Emily.
So that podcast with Dill was in October, did you say? October?
Maybe it was in October or so.
And then
by the end of that year, you'd made the decision.
Yeah, that sort of surged me into action.
Wow.
I think. I
so
was
not even privately, but also publicly. That is incredibly brave. Yeah. Inspiring.
I think it was it was just a moment where I was that just doesn't sit well anymore. And you don't have to keep saying that. It's almost I said it just to see, even though I'd already told my partner that I was non-binary, it was sort of just one of those moments that I think sometimes you do that to yourself. You say something and then you're it's a little test.
So the brave, just coming back to the card, so do you feel, because I just said that is very brave, in your mind, do you feel like the act of recognising it within yourself and sort of speaking to yourself about it, was that the brave thing, or was the brave thing talking publicly about it, or telling Emily, or telling, was there a specific part that you felt was brave, or just all of it generally?
I don't know, to be honest. I feel like,
not that it matters, by the way.
Yeah.
It just I'm just curious. Yeah.
I feel like it can feel like a brave thing just to share who you are with people when it's not necessarily that it's not accepted by some people. That's probably where that comes from. But also, I feel like doing it publicly as well. It does feel like there is risk when people know you a certain way, and especially playing AFLW. That if people aren't on board or aren't understanding of gender and how that works, then you do feel like they don't feel like you belong in that space anymore. And that felt like something that I was worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there as growing up as a kid or as a teenager, you were always filling out forms, male or female. Was there ever a point growing up where you thought, neither of these options feel right? Or was it something you never really questioned when you were growing up?
Yeah, I probably didn't really question it growing up. But I look back and I think there are moments where this makes a lot of sense for me. even in terms of like if people weren't sure if I was a boy or a girl, like I kind of like thrived on that.
Really?
Like, and like with footy, like sometimes it would happen, like people would not be sure, and that was kind of like a badge of honor. But yeah, I don't like. I definitely didn't feel like tormented or anything. In that space, like.
But I imagine to pick you up on what you were saying before about there might have been a slight fear about the people that people knew you and you had a sort of why do I go to the word reputation? That's not what I mean. But there's knowledge of your identity prior to this in the public eye, and would it be right to assume that you felt very at home in the AFLW world and football world, and that was it kind of like a fear of losing that place of belonging?
Yeah, I'd say so because, we've sort of really carved out this space in a very male-dominated industry, and the W is something that, we wear with pride. I guess you do feel like, am I still able to be part of that space or claim that to be part of that space? But yeah, it's still something that like I think it'll take a long time to sort of work through that and understand that. And like I'm not the only non-binary player in the AFLW as well, so like that really helps too.
Of course.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel like as humans you're always like, where do I belong?
Yeah.
Like is this my group? Like and anything that sort of I don't know, maybe tests that or shakes that a little bit can be hard.
And so when you did announce it on your own terms, as you said, were your fears validated or were they quelled? Is that a word?
Squashed?
Gone away.
Squelched.
Squelched. Definitely not squelched.
Were your fears...
Quashed.
I know what you... quashed.
Quashed. That's the word. Were your fears quashed?
Quashed is a strange word, isn't it, now that we're on the subject?
Yes, really well.
Why drop the S from the top?
Yeah.
Yeah, quashed versus squashed. Anyway.
That should have been one of the questions.
It's an episode.
Do you quash or squash?
Yeah.
Let's have a lemon quash, please.
Sorry.
Quash.
What was that like? Were the fears validated or not?
No, I think I knew that it would be okay. Like I think like the AFLW space and the community that surrounds it are very progressive. And I think I knew that this would be something that would be widely supported.
Gee, how good's that?
Yeah, it is amazing. Like
the AFLW community, and to me as a brand, it's just about progressive,
inclusiveness,
accepting love. It really is. I mean, it's miles ahead of any other sporting league I can think of in that area.
Yeah, no,
which must be great.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome, and you do feel like, because even like talking to my teammates before the public announcement, like just knowing that you've got like a pack of 28, 29 other people who are like ready to fight for you if need be. Like that's pretty amazing too. Like most people don't have access to an immediate network like that.
Totally.
Which is incredible. But yeah, there were, like with anything, there are people who were negative about it, but it mostly like they stuck out.
Yeah.
Like they looked stupid, to be honest. Like it looked really silly. Like if you just had a look at comments or anything like that. And yeah, I didn't feel like I had to be engaging with them because a lot of other people would. But a lot of the time, like if there were like things said that just weren't okay, like I just delete it just because like I'm pretty tight with my own social media presence. Like I don't want it to ever be hijacked or used in a way that would make other people feel bad because, I can take it, but, there are other people who like if they see that on my page, then like that's not okay.
Yeah, of course. I guess I hadn't even thought about the social media thing, which is probably completely ignorant of me. I was, because there's always going to be idiots out there saying stupid, hurtful stuff. I was sort of more interested, which you've answered so beautifully about your team and the AFLW and the I guess the people that matter.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away. Like, and I don't know why, because our team is really young, and the young people in my team. Like they're so much more progressive and open about things. Like I should have known it would have been fine. Like I remember after one of the team meetings, I went out the front and sort of explained myself and what had been going on. And like,
did anyone know that was about to happen? Did you word it up anyone, or you just said, guys, I just want to say something very quickly?
No, a few of them knew, just because I'd been all over the shop at training, just sort of leading into that. But yeah, I sort of said it, and like they were so supportive. Like I get emotional thinking about it now. But yeah, they were just like big hugs and everything like that.
So that's how they showed you that, like, as soon as you said it, it was hugs and like
yeah.
It sort of feels like the AFLW, because I sort of like have this sort of utopian hope that in like the generations to come, like society will kind of figure its shit out, and the young people who actually are progressive and they'll kind of once they take over and the older generations leave us, the
die or
die.
Yeah,
die.
Once they are quashed.
I'm not once they quash. Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I said leave us. Trying to like soften it, but people die. It's not a big deal. What is a big deal? Anyway. I'm doing great. No, but it's almost like it seems like the AFLW, and maybe this was unconsciously what, other than loving football, what maybe drew you to wanting to play AFLW, I don't know, but it almost seems like it's a microcosm or like an example of how society can evolve. Like it seems like it's such like a progressive, like little
example of shining light.
Example of how it could be, because the fact that you could go into that, which if you weren't part of the AFLW, if you were, well, if someone in the AFL, if a man in the AFL wanted to come out non-binary, I feel like it would be a far bigger a bigger hurdle to jump over, because it hasn't got that progressive, like the roots of AFLW sound like it's just so, for you to feel so safe and okay about talking about it and supported is just, well, it says a lot about the AFLW in such a good way.
Yeah, and I guess like women's footy as a whole has been kind of built by queer communities. Like that's sort of where it's begun. So it's sort of always had those roots, and it's just continued to grow into something that is more mainstream. But I think at the core of it, it is, built around celebrating difference and embracing all different types of people. But yeah, I remember I came out of talking to my teammates, and one of my teammates, Plano, like came up to me and she was like, "Oh, Darce, like I thought you were going to announce you were retiring or something." She was like, I saw you were so upset, and you were just like, "I'm non-binary," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, bitch!" Like she's like, "Oh," I was like, it was just like no worries at all. Like that is awesome. Like
yeah, what I love. Her greatest fear was that we're going to start losing if you leave.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it was, so that was sort of the general theme. Like, yeah, the players just, they wanted to celebrate it. And yeah, that was a really nice thing.
Can I ask about the tears when you said before you're really upset as you were saying it. I read somewhere that you said they weren't tears of sadness. It was something else. Can you describe that to us? Obviously getting up and talking about, I see a lot of this working at clubs when players get up and talk about their life. Sometimes it's not even that.
Yeah.
I mean, yours is quite a significant announcement, but sometimes it's just something about revealing something about yourself can make you really emotional. Can you describe what those tears were like?
Yeah, I guess you do feel like, you're kind of peeling layers of yourself back. And that in itself, like, it doesn't really matter what you're saying. Like, it does feel like you're in quite a vulnerable position and you're not really sure, what the response will be. But I think I felt like a great sense of almost relief, like happiness.
What was the relief? What is that? What was the relief in reference to?
Well, I think that once I got to the point where I was like, oh, I need to tell people, like, I don't want to like kind of hold it just with myself and Emily anymore. I think, yeah, the relief was just because I almost felt like I just wanted to burst sort of thing. Like it was like, no, like it shouldn't be something that I just hold for myself. But yeah, I don't think I've ever cried that much in that sort of few month period. Like I probably in the past, like I've been someone who like I don't usually cry that much, which isn't at all a badge of honor. But like nowadays, like I just cry and then I'm just like, next minute I'm like, what are we doing? Like I'm just like, but like it's quite nice, like being able to do that. And yeah, like I guess it is like when you're talking about yourself in that way, it is like a hard thing to not cry about because like so often you live your life and you're just talking about literally anything else but like how you're really feeling. So it was quite intense to sort of just spend like a lot of time talking to people about that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that to come back to the word courage on the card that you chose, I think it's really courageous because what you're doing is you're allowing other people out there, you know, it could be a younger Darcy Vescio just hearing that going, that's me, that's exactly who I am. And she can share that with the world. I can share that with my partner. I can share that with my whoever it is. And I think for me, that's why I think it's so unbelievably courageous, even though you know for yourself, or like, yeah, this is who I am. But to, expose yourself like that, I think it's incredibly brave.
Thanks, you.
Not a question. Just said something.
Just a statement.
Well, did you experience that like when you spoke publicly about it and it was in the news and clearly then the world found out, did you experience people reaching out to you and getting in contact or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have had people sort of write little comments and things and say that it has helped. Like I'm really glad that I can do that for other people as well. Well, I guess like that's how I've kind of gotten to this point as well, just by seeing other people be that in the world. So yeah, it has been nice to get those little notes as well.
I hope this isn't a crass question, but is how good you are at football, like you're amazing, does that give you confidence to be able to do this? Do you know what I mean? Like does being exceptional at what you do, give you the confidence?
Well, I think there is certainly a element of privilege that comes with sharing something like this. Like, like I feel like I have been part of the face of AFLW and everything like this. So I do feel protected in a way that if it was to go poorly or, you know, like if I feel like I would have that support. And and I do feel like, you know, I'm not on the edge of a list or anything like that. Like I feel secure in my spot and things like that. So I think that certainly would play into it. Like, I've got so much support around me. And that I think that does give you confidence to be able to share all different parts of yourself, whether it's gender or anything else.
After you had, I mean, obviously you got the immediate support of your teammates, as you said so beautifully before. In general, you're saying sounds like there was a lot of inner turmoil, maybe is the word, leading up to it. Did that dissipate to a degree? Was there a sense of relief once you started talking about it and talking about it in public?
Yeah, definitely. I think like going through the process of telling people individually, like that was really nice, but it was also like really exhausting because you'd sort of like I'd have like a general, like a mailing list, no, not really, just like a general message that I would send out, but I'd personalise it. Dear reader.
To whom it may concern.
And it should concern you.
But it was a big, like sending that off would feel good, but then there was sort of the anticipation and waiting to see what the response would be. So it just kind of felt like every time it would just be a big emotional roller coaster. So it was kind of nice just to put it out there and then be like, everyone, like people will know now and I don't need to have that private conversation anymore.
Yeah. I'm guessing you told your parents somewhere along this journey as well?
Yeah. So, I told my parents.
It's a good guess, Hugh.
Well,
Because
They're yet to
if
find.
he listened to the Imperfects, be quite the reveal.
Yeah. No, I did tell mum and dad.
Did you tell them when in the order? For some reason I'm interested in, was that after the players? Or was
it was, I think it was, it was it was the day before the players, I think. But I'd already told.
It's like you've asked Darcy to rank her top friends.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
No, I told them, and mum and dad were really good. I think, I just sent a message to mum, and I didn't expect them to be fully across, I guess, the terms and everything and what it means. And but mum sort of, she just, said she loved me and everything like that, and just said, we'll just chat about it when you're home, sort of thing. Because I think she said, I've Googled it. It's very confusing. We'll just chat about it when you're here.
Fill in the
And I
blanks
was
for
like,
them.
I was like, that's fair, because it is confusing. And we had some really good chats about it. Because I think the hard thing for mum to understand was that she's like, so you're not changing anything. So nothing changes. I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, I think that's okay, but I don't understand, but nothing changes, and I'm like, oh, mum, it's just, I'm sort of just letting you know how I feel. It's just like having a conversation about anything, and you come out of it understanding someone's perspective or how they're feeling, and then it makes more sense. She was like, okay. So it is a bit of a process. But
and did you tell your dad as well?
Well, I think Dad and I have sort of mentioned a little bit around it. We probably haven't had a really deep conversation, but they're very supportive parents, and he shows his love in all different ways, I think. But we haven't really, with mum, I've had that conversation, and I assume she's probably spoken to Dad about it in that way as well. But I'm really lucky.
And I read that you grew up playing footy with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
T, older or younger?
I've got two brothers, so I've got an older and a younger brother.
Right, okay. And you've told them, and obviously.
Yeah. No, they're very supportive and protective. But they're really awesome. Yeah, they're just like, we love you. We support you. Let us know if you need. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they have a better understanding of what it means as well compared to mum and dad.
So I was just thinking, with your parents, so there are sons and there's daughters.
Yeah.
So is there a correct term for a non-binary child?
I actually
I
don't.
love the way your brain thinks so much. I really do.
Well, it's because I was going to say, what I was going to say, and I stopped myself, but I was going to say, and I apologise, but what I was going to say is they should be proud. Darcy Vescio is their daughter. But I was like, well, I won't say that because you're not a daughter.
No, it's a good question because I actually thought about that. Must have been a little while after I told them. I was like, oh, that's complicated. What? I actually don't know what the term is. I would still be comfortable, I think, if they said that I was their daughter. And the same for my brothers. I'm like, will Zeb and Lewis still say sister, or will they say just sibling? I'm not really sure. But it's probably something that I should look up and get a better grip of, because I was like, that's kind of it is awkward for them.
Name it if no one's thought of it before. You could call.
It's a real opportunity. We could do it right now.
Yeah.
We're trying to get in on it.
We could name it after you, Darcy.
Yeah.
This is my Darcy.
But but it's funny because this whole process it feels strange because it's everyone around you has to adjust, but you don't really have to adjust. It almost at footy training. Everyone's making an effort to not say, come on, girls. But I'm like, well, I can say that. But it's but it's not really. So
That's a perfect example.
But it's not really fair. So we're trying to just use gender neutral terms for everything. But it is one of those things where I'm you never want to be an inconvenience or anything. But it is hard to, because it's everyone else has to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'll start thinking about, I feel like we need to think of a term.
Yeah.
Not now, but, we can put a heads together later off there. Might take a while, but be worth it.
Yeah.
Be worth it.
It's such a fascinating conversation to have, though, because I feel the main reason I think it's fascinating is because I just think a lot of people out there listening will be relating to this now and going, yeah, that's me. And it's probably not why you do it, but you're inspiring a younger generation of people to go, this is how I identify and I'm going to tell people rather than holding it in. It sounds like for you, the decision, it didn't take that long for you to go, do you know what? This is who I am. I'm going to tell people.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't, I couldn't really give you an exact timeline, but yeah, once I sort of sat with it and was like, oh, yeah, that feels a lot more comfortable, and that feels, it just feels, I guess, warm, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by this concept that my psychologist once mentioned to me, cognitive cohesion, and I was thinking about it in this framework. And on a very minor, different sort of example, I always find if I've been trying to work something out inside that's sort of giving me some kind of inner turmoil about who I am or what's happening, and if I can find the words and the ability to describe that and then live that way that I've been sort of seeking, the sense of well-being, the sense of comfort, and it's like a weight that you didn't know was on your shoulders is gone. I feel like what you've done is like level 99 of that, like this intense, like the biggest way possible you can do it. And I just
couldn't give Darcy level 100.
What? Is that a phrase? Is there a level?
Oh, probably. Maybe there is. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a phrase, but I don't know.
Level 99. Maybe there is.
Squelched her down to 99.
Yeah. But I imagine to use the term, which I think applies, the cognitive cohesion that you now live with every day. It's just, I'm just imagining that must feel bloody fantastic.
Yeah, I think so. I think, the ability to, I guess, articulate better how you're feeling and being able to talk about it with other people, and even just have, the terms for yourself, like when you're thinking. Yeah. Be able to not categorize. I feel like that's the wrong way to put it, especially in this conversation. But
articulate. And then also just to be able to live who you are.
Yeah.
And be accepted for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is a good feeling.
Yeah, great.
Well, I can tell you your comment about the future generation and young people being more accepting. My son is 5, and when he was 4, he came home from kinder one day and he said to me, out of nowhere, we weren't talking about anything like this, but he just said, sometimes people are a he, sometimes they're a she, and sometimes they're a they. No, a they. He said they're a they. So he called them a they for a long time. But he learned that from the age of, and totally, he's like, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, my gosh, the future is bright when 4-year-olds are being taught at kinder now about this is how people feel, this is what some people are, this is what some people aren't. And he wasn't like, what do you mean? He wasn't confused by it at all, not in the slightest. And so sometimes I think it's a bit of a lazy excuse for older people to go, and I'm not saying your mum, but like generations of people going, well, that's not true. It's my 4-year-old son understands it. Like he's all over it. He's all over it, and he's totally fine with it, which is so. And he asks me often. He wants me to. He says, "Oh, can you tell me when we see a they? I really want to know," which is really cool. So I sort of feel like the future is bright, and you are a huge part of sort of paving the way to make it that way. So courageous, yes, and I think you should also be bloody proud.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darcy. I'm also I'm aware, and I can't stop thinking about it, that no, it's just to acknowledge the fact that a few times we've slipped up and we've said she or her, and I apologise for that. But how do you feel when I accidentally say that? My intentions are but like with what Hugh was just talking about, like the younger generation they'll do it perfectly and they'll get it right because it won't be a new thing for them. So fantastic. So, but I guess I'm just saying, well, first of all, I'm sorry that slipped, but I do know that people do, they feel like they're on eggshells sometimes when they're talking pronouns.
Yeah.
And getting that right and wrong. So I just is there I don't know, does that make you feel, are you annoyed or are you?
No,
is that
not
okay
really.
to ask? Sorry.
No, I think it's a good question. For me, I'm not too, it doesn't really bother me that much because I know, and especially because it's a relatively new thing when people are especially referring to me, it's natural to refer to the old pronouns and that sort of thing. Like, it feels awesome when people get it right like that, but I don't really feel upset or anything if they slip or whatever.
Yeah. And also, I don't mean to put you on the spot and speak for all non-binary people.
No.
This is just your experience.
Yeah. I feel like I have a responsibility to say that it is important to get it right for sure. But I definitely, like, personally, I understand that it is a process. And even for myself, like, I'll be talking to someone and then later they'll be like, oh, like, send a message and say, so sorry, like, I said this. And, like, it's complete, like, I didn't even notice. So, yeah.
But I think the important thing that you just, which maybe helps me understand, is that you said when people get it right, you feel great.
Yeah.
And I think that's just all of our want to be seen for who we truly are. And just such a simple thing makes you feel great.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it's that's exactly right. She, her, like, I don't really feel much, but they, them, like, it's nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Darcy, thank you so much for joining us today. It's
no worries.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Loved it.
If this episode has been triggering for you, we strongly recommend Lifeline on 131114. The Imperfects is hosted and co-produced by Hugh van Cuylenberg, Ryan Shelton and Josh van Cuylenberg. This episode was produced by Bridget Northeast, edited by Andy Hall, filmed by Andy Poole and social mediated by George Martin. A special thanks to Dr. M for her expertise and guidance. We'd also like to thank the Resilience Project for their ongoing support.